Southeast Asian diaspora descent. I'm also a military brat. I am licensed in California, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Kansas, and Oregon. There we go. And I work with survivors of sexual assault and abuse. I work with people in the gaming industry. I work with military members and their families. And I work with the Asian American, Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiian community. And my passions are walking my dog, going to Disneyland, and karaoke.
I'm just gonna share Ariel's mic just because I need to be looking at something sometimes when I'm talking. I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from, but my name is Stefanie. I am the other co-host, actually, of the Happiest Pod On Earth with Ariel. We talk about all things, mainly Disney, but we do talk about a lot of different fandom topics that have to do with mental health aspects and also the education realm, which is where I'm from. I am also from Southeast Asian diaspora. I'm Filipino American, born here, and my credentials are BS in Liberal Arts and Masters of Arts in Teaching. I currently work for a charter school network in Central Los Angeles, and I am their special programs manager, so I basically do all the cool stuff after school, before school, and during our camps. I try to curate to all of our students' needs and also our littlest fans. So I really try to connect geekdom and everything that our littlest fans are seeing, and trying to connect both of those worlds to give them a place of comfort when they're at school. I used to teach elementary school from all the way from kindergarten all the way up until 4th grade. And I love music, pop culture, anime, going to Disney with Ariel, of course, and my family, and eating all things.
Oh, me?
Sorry, you're
Sorry. Hi, my name is Thien Pham, and I'm a graphic novelist. I've done a couple graphic novels, but I have one coming out on June 20th, and it's called Family Style, and it's a memoir about my family's immigration from Vietnam to America. I came here when I was 5 on a boat, and it's told through the lens of my food memories. So basically, each memory is told through a specific a meal that I remember fondly. And it's going to come out from First Second Comics in June 20th. So.
What's up, everyone? What's up? Hi, my name is Earl Baylon. I'm an actor improviser based in Los Angeles, California. I can't, God, my eyes have gotten bad. I am a second generation A-spec Filipino American that's aromantic, asexual spectrum. Credentials. I'm literally just some guy off the street. This is what I tell everybody. Everybody asks, hey, how'd you get into voice acting? Or where'd you train at? I'm like, I don't know, man, they just hired me. Thank you. I am an actor, improviser, and writer. I've worked on several projects that I will mention after, saying that my passions are cooking, pop culture, TV, film, and video games. I do primarily, I do both on-camera and voice work. If you play the recent Tomb Raider reboot series, I'm the voice of Jonah in that. If you've watched Trece on Netflix, I've worked on that. Tekken Bloodlines, recently Vinland Saga. So there's a few things. I'm a cast member and a producer of the feature film Olympia with a Vengeance, which you may have seen as a presence here at the cons recently. We do have we're selling merch as always, and hopefully soon we'll have news about that coming to some streaming service. Who knows? I'm just saying. We'll see. We're gonna have to wait and see.
Okay.
Jennifer is currently not here. She's stuck in traffic. She's actually an award-winning film director. These are actually two of one of the many films that she has written and directed. And hopefully she will be here and just join a little later. Kristine.
Hi, my name is Kristine Gerolaga. I'm a Filipino-American actor and filmmaker. I hilariously did not know what I was supposed to put for credentials, so I put my sociology degree. Hilarious. But I guess I could say, like, as of recently, I've been working a lot in horror filmmaking. You can find one of my short films, Concealer, on Alter, which is a really cool horror platform on YouTube, and then I've had a couple of shorts stream on Shudder in the last couple of years, which is really cool. And I am also from off of the street, so I'm excited to be here.
Hey y'all, I'm Denise Cabanella, or Denise Maxine Florendo Cabanella, and I know my government name. And I identify as Filipino, Filipinx. I'm from Texas and part of the Southeast Asian diaspora. And I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA, also did not know what to put for credentials. I was like, double major in psychology? I'm a co-founder of Filipinx Actors Barkada, and I was recently on Frasier, which is coming to Paramount Plus.
What?
Doing a reboot.
Reboot?
Adventure Beast on Netflix, and Dear White People, and Arsenic and Adobo if anyone loves cozy mysteries. I'm an actor for film, TV, theater, and commercials and voiceover, and I also teach yoga. And my passions are reading, yoga. I love talking with people about the intersection of arts and activism, karaoke, animals, and RuPaul's Drag Race.
Woo. Also, I am in Filipino-American, Philippine Actors Barkada. So
Woohoo!
yeah.
All right, let's do a little round of applause for
So we want to start off by defining what AANHPI is. I know the acronym has kind of expanded in recent times, and it actually stands for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander. And it's an integral part of the American cultural mosaic, encompassing a wide range of diversity. As Ariel said earlier, we are not a monolith. There are different stories, different people, different experiences, especially here in America, and we want to honor all of that. And the way that we see them on the screen, when we read, the people we interact with, talent that represents a lot of these stories, and everything that basically encompasses it. This term describes a fast-growing population of 23 million Americans, roughly including 50 ethnic groups with origins in more than 40 countries. Asia is a large place, and it is very hard when we are represented in just one way. So we just want to expand, but also, try to tell as much stories and amplify as many voices as possible. So now what we're going to do is we're going to ask our wonderful panelists amazing questions, and we're just going to go down the line. Whoever wants to speak, just feel the vibe, speak from the heart, and probably your lunch that you just ate. So how do you honor AANHPI representation in your profession?
Well, I think for me, it really is just creating content and working on things that are very much representative of who I am. And I mean, that's kind of hard in the greater industry if you're working like, TV shows and all that. You always have a little influence, but it's a huge machine, and it's really hard to get that other people's projects to steer in that direction. But if you have your own project, something like Lumpia with a Vengeance, it's a community-driven project. We kickstarted it way back in 2013. It was a sequel. It is a sequel to a film that came out in 2000 about like neighborhood kids in Daly City. And like how Filipino can you get? It's Daly City. But there's always that. In addition to like the acting roles, there's also like I used to stream a lot, and I had a Filipino. It wasn't really a Filipino cooking show, but like it ended up. We did a show called Pots and Pangeekery, which basically we would take all of our nerdy our franchises, the things we love, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Spaceballs, all that stuff, and then create a menu every week that was inspired by that. So like we had. Dragon Pancit for Street Fighter, Zang beef with those are the years. Like instead of saying Keith.
Love
But
puns.
we did it.
Puns.
Yeah. I should put that in this. But like, inevitably, my co-host Arnold is also Filipino, and a lot of our stuff, our inspiration came from Filipino dishes. So we did like pork belly adobo. We cooked dinuguan on the stream live, a bunch of that stuff. But yeah.
Look, I just want to shout out Lumpia with a Vengeance again because it's so good. It is so fun. If you haven't seen it, please go see it because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you, boo. So I started a group called Filipinx Actors Barkada with our friend Cedric Restaro. Earl and I are part of this group, and it's led by actors who decide what the community is, how we share resources, give back to each other, and we grow together through classes. And it's been life-changing to have this community where, I'm from Texas, being Filipino in San Antonio, it was like, I'm the only one. I'm the only actor, someone who did what I did. And so having this space where we're like, oh my God, where were you? Where were you? Has been just, I feel so much more of a sense of purpose to connect with fellow Filipinos and continue to elevate representation in Hollywood, because y'all, we just got a Filipino nurse on Grey's Anatomy. Like, how did that happen?
New Amsterdam finally happened in the season finale, right? Or the series finale, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and they're all in Barkada.
And they're both in Barkada. To jump on what Denise said, it is in the Barkada too. We have representation in terms of the diaspora. It's not just people who grew up in the LA area. It's also like Denise, San Antonio. We have Vancouver. We have DC,
Vegas,
Atlanta.
Yeah, a lot of people have come to us via Twitter too.
Yeah. Twitter is
wanting to,
like,
wanting to be a part of the community, and now it's having this conversation with each other in a way that we haven't been able to as quickly before has been really meaningful. Like, what is it? Why do we call ourselves Filipinx? Because we are Filipino American. I'm sure y'all heard about the Comic-Con thing.
Oh yeah.
With do you want to share
I was on that panel.
But basically, yeah, go ahead.
Basically, it was called Filipinx pop culture, and there was a huge hoopla with the folks from the motherland who objected to it rather vehemently. Like it was not pretty. It was very ugly.
They were like, "Why are you calling us? We're not that," and we're like, "We're not saying."
Yeah,
like,
but nobody. You don't have to like adopt the thing. It's not like we're forcing anybody.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
Yeah. Also, I miss that I'm also the artistic director of a Asian American improv troupe called Room to Improv, of which we have members in the audience. So, shouts to that.
So you're not that random. You lie.
Well, I think, when I first started comics, we did with mini comics, and there was a community of people that were doing comics where we really wanted to tell our own stories. But of course, back in the day when I started, back in 2003, doing independent comics, there were not a lot of people publishing our comics. We had Marvel and DC, and they were really publishing the type of stories that we would publish. So we were making it ourselves, basically Xeroxing books, stapling it, taking it to conventions like Comic-Con and APE and SPX and all that, and selling them. And I really found a community with a group of cartoonists, and that we weren't so much like a Asian American cartoonist group, but it was just organically, that there were a lot of us that were Asian cartoonists. And I think I honor my representation just by being a voice in this field. This is the first time. Obviously, my book that's coming out is about my Asian American experience of being a refugee from Vietnam and becoming a citizen and stuff like that. However, my other books are not specifically about that. But no matter what I do, my Asian American voice is going to come through. Like I have friends like Jean Yang, who writes about Asian American subjects. But then I also have friends like Jason Shiga, who is a Japanese American cartoonist, whose subject matter has nothing to do with being Japanese or anything. But because of his voice, you know, and just making the things that are inherently part of us, just part of culture. I really love when you go and see a movie. Like for example, I went to see that movie Missing with John Cho, and I really loved it. Searching, yeah. I really loved it because the people in it did not have to be Asian. It could have been anyone. It could have been African American, white, anyone, but they just chose to do an Asian person. And that's the type of representation I would like to see in media, where it's not like this is an Asian-centric story, so we're gonna have all Asian people in it. But I want just like regular story, I want to see like John Wick, but let's do Asian people for no reason, because we're just around, just like going into, if I'm drawing a comic and I'm drawing my kitchen and there's rice cookers and like the different things that are Asian, is unique to my experience, but not really calling it out, just being that that's the norm. And hopefully through that, people, all cultures will see that and be like, this is the norm. Because when we were growing up, the way we lived was not represented in the media. So I was always ashamed of how my house looked and how my food looked and all that. But if we make it the norm, we make it like, this is just how everybody is, then I think that gives a lot of comfort to probably people like our age, like younger than us now,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that answer. I mean, as someone who had a similar experience, I mean, a lot of us have a similar experience growing up and just feeling like so many of these smaller details that are so much a part of our lives not being reflected to us on the screen, I think the way I want to honor our representation in media, it always starts with how do we center ourselves? How do we celebrate ourselves? And then the last part for me now in my work currently is how do we challenge our community too? In what ways do our communities participate or perpetuate in the oppressive systems that we are a part of, right? I think that kind of work really excites me in the stories I'm trying to tell as an emerging filmmaker. And also after hearing all of them speak, what are all the things coming out that we can watch that helps center and celebrate us, that helps move representation forward, but and also being a part of the discourse around the critiques of those works, because all of those opinions are valid and will contribute to better, full, complex representation of the human beings that we want to be seen as, right? So, yeah.
Love that. Okay, so we'll start at the end and move back, because I like to change things up.
Yeah.
Have you faced any challenges advancing AANHPI representation in your craft? Any challenges?
Oh, I mean, for sure. I started out as an actor in this field, and when I first started, they were not looking for Filipino actors to play Filipinos. It was just oh, thank God you're ethnically ambiguous, so then you might get a chance to book a supporting role that should be played by some, general brown person. And so that was really tough for me in the beginning. I mean, that's what led me to, a few years into the acting game, saying, okay, I think I have to try to make my own work. That means I have to be a writer and a director and a producer and an actor, to be able to do all those things just so you can participate in this industry. And honestly, that has changed my life, and I wouldn't do it any other way. I really do want to keep telling the stories I want to tell. But that was a huge challenge. And then also being a Filipino and casting's idea, the industry's idea of what that means, it's okay, now that we're opening the door a little bit to having Filipino characters. It's like, that means you must be fluent in a Filipino language. That means you must look a specific way as a Filipino. As someone who, both of my parents are from the Philippines, I was still seen in the industry as someone who did not look Filipino, and then when they found out that I didn't speak Tagalog or any other Filipino language fluently, like, that automatically docked off points for me. I would not be considered for those roles. So again, that's one reason why I went into filmmaking. And it's just like, I want to be able to see a character on TV or in a film who is learning the language of their native homeland. Like, that to me would be such a unique and exciting representation of a character, of an Asian or a native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander growing up in America who may not have been taught that part of their culture.
The diaspora experience.
Yeah, it's so complex. It's not just one specific experience. So
When are we gonna write it, Kristine?
I know.
Yeah, we're ready.
We are.
Waiting for that casting call.
Right.
I just say that in my career, I don't think I've faced a lot of challenges as much as I haven't faced any demand for Asian American stories until I think recently. I was talking to my friend Rina Ayuyang, who has a great Filipino graphic novel coming out called The Man in the Macintosh Suit, which is a Filipino kind of film noir graphic novel. And I was telling her, I looked at her and I said, this is our time. Because right now, the demand for media from all different cultures, and especially Asian American or AANHPI, it's in demand, and everybody wants to see new stories from cultures and places that they've never heard of or they haven't had exposure from. And I said, this is our time, and we gotta take it. Because if we are just going to be lazy or passive while this time is happening, it's going to pass us by, and we'll never, get it again. And I said, we got to go out there and we got to do it. And so again, I haven't really faced many challenges. In the past, when I started, there was not a big willingness to put any of our type of media on the forefront, and now I think there is. And I really hope that and this panel here is a great representation that we're ready to take it, right?
Amen. I want to circle back to something that Kristine said about perpetuating like old stories or old ways of doing things or perpetuating white supremacy. And I was like, how honest do I be with it?
Be honest. Protect your peace.
So when we start to find, our fellow people, especially with Filipinx actors work on it, I remember posting on Twitter like, oh, Filipinos, we're so like we're out here, like, come on, let's represent, or don't people know how awesome we are? Basically being like, this is me, I'm Filipino, I will speak for myself, and let's boost our representation. And I remember getting pushback from other Southeast Asian minority groups, just being like, well, what about us? What about us? And I was like, it is all about all of us. And when I say that, it's not like not anyone else, but the industry and our society just promotes this scarcity mindset that there can be just this one, and it's you, and that's just not the truth. There are so many, even within the Filipino diaspora, so many different experiences. Like, I Filipino differently than Earl Filipinos. And that is, that is just something that I wish that everyone, especially outside of our Asian community, understood, is that we really truly are not a monolith, and we're all people that can just do regular people things too.
That's right.
Yeah. What Denise said is true. It's like, we're constantly fed this idea that we have to fight for what's out there. You know, we have to fight for like the scraps that we were offered. But especially in the industry, because I've been in this game for 15 years now. And I can tell you the amount of like casting calls or breakdowns that I fit back in the day that I could submit to and reasonably get looked at was, it's probably 10% of what it is now. It's there's back in the day, and it sounds like some kind of fiction, but it really was. A lot of the roles were tech guy, martial arts master, masseuse. All that stuff constantly over and over again, and I used to check the breakdowns every day because I'm just doing my due diligence. And these days, the kinds of roles that I'm getting, and it took 10-15 years for me to go out for a Filipino role, or like a role that was like Filipino and wasn't a terrorist, or there's that movie out right now, The Plane,
Pirate,
or Pirate. All of that. So there have been challenges, and unfortunately, back a lot of us were fighting for those roles. There was this joke back in the day when you would know if like CSI or like NCIS or something, one of those big procedurals, was having a Chinatown episode, because you would get into the audition room and you saw everybody you knew, and thankfully that's finally changing, where roles are being written that are more that aren't tied to a specific ethnicity, that everybody has a chance at. And even more so, there have been specifically Filipino characters finally, and Southeast Asia, a lot of Southeast Asian representation, especially in video games, is happening right now. So it's a good time. I'm glad that the industry of 10 years ago, 15 years ago is not what it stagnated at.
yeah, definitely.
Thank you for all of that, and I think can you go back to the last slide?
Yeah, the rock.
I think just pointing out Ji Young, who's a puppet, and to speak to our littlest fans, the littlest ones, they are seeing a lot of representation, and it means a lot to them. I talk to kids every day, and they feel so much more comfortable in their skin, I feel, because of the work that you guys are doing, and I really appreciate you guys sharing that with us. Thank you.
Ji Young is on Sesame Street.
Yes, Ji Young is on Sesame Street. She's one of the newest Muppets, and she's super cool. She loves rock music. She plays guitar, and she's also breaking stereotypes left and right. But yes, again, for our littlest fans, it means everything for you guys to face those challenges and take them head on. So now, with our friend The Rock, how do you think AANHPI voices have influenced pop culture, or your perception of pop culture, or how you know it to be?
Popcorn, whoever.
I feel like we're taking over. I mean,
Yeah.
listen to the music. If you look, like I also teach high school, and all the students, just imagine the star quarterback is also a K-pop fan, of the school,
right.
Or just kids that the mean popular girls that picked on you is drinking boba tea. That's what they're stopping for. It's just like it's everything. It's everywhere, and it's great, and it's and I think the entertainment industry is a little bit behind, like in terms of movies and stuff like that. They're the ones that are actually a little bit behind, where because even there's a hunger for just more representation in everything, and I think Hollywood now is only starting to catch up. Like you said, we're finally getting a Filipino nurse. That's ridiculous, So I think though, in terms of everything else, I see this big shift where Asians in pop culture is at an all-time high, and so. But that's from my perspective.
Yeah, we're definitely taking over. Like from BTS to comedy, sports. There's like mad talent in sports with Filipinos too. it'll be a Filipino town over here. Like, that's what I know. But yeah, I think that the storytelling is starting to change. Hollywood is tough, and I like can understand from a producer standpoint why people would think that we don't make money, but they are wrong. Yeah, I think that there's been a lot more of a wave of representation and a lot of fronts with all kinds of representation with Asians.
I think it's weird because there was a time where every time there would be an Asian person in pop culture, I'd clock it. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be like, oh yeah, I love some reality show because there's an Asian guy, or I love Top Chef because I'm rooting for the Asian chef, and now I can't clock it anymore because they're everywhere, you know, and it's just like I can't,
Yeah.
so it's like now I have to decide between the 4 different Asian chefs, you know, and that's great. That's what you want. You know?
I mean, it got to a point where I would watch commercials and I would be like,
Yeah.
I don't recognize that person. They must be new, because like you knew everything,
So true.
right? And look, now there's like all these other
Yeah.
people who have come to play in this industry, and it seems like. Hopefully they were inspired by somebody else that we knew, and like
There's
Thien
so
says,
much talent.
there's so much talent, and we just never knew each other were out there.
Yeah, that's the same, because I've now been in LA for 10 years, and it's been like, who is
Yeah.
that? Like,
Yeah.
we knew each other.
Who booked that?
We don't know. Yeah, but it's so exciting.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, great. Absolutely. Mhm.
Right.
1000%. It's all everyone. So it's not just the actors, but it's the writers who create the content, the producers, the execs who greenlight these projects that say, yes, let's tell that story.
And we finally do have some people like
Yeah.
fitting themselves into those roles. I mean, we have names out there that, it feels like I'm name dropping. I'm bad.
I was talking to my friend Jean Yang has a TV show coming out May 20th, American Born Chinese.
Yeah.
Oh, the 24th. I'm sorry, May 24th. Everyone watch.
That looks wild, by the way.
And we were talking to the people behind the scenes, and they're all Asians. The showrunner is Asian. The people that greenlit the show was Asian. We talked to. And when I went to visit the set, this was like one of the most. He allowed me to visit the set, which was already amazing because you got to meet all these stars. But everybody that worked there was Asian.
Yeah.
Like the hair, makeup, the people that hold the mic, and it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never seen a Hollywood production or a TV show production, and I was amazed to see that there's so many people behind the scenes. Like for every TV show you watch, there's 400 employees. Like
Right.
400 employees
So
to
many.
make a TV show, and they were in this particular production all Asian from all walks of life, and I was floored, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience, and somebody like Disney can do this, then I'm hopeful for the future.
That's so important about like what you said, other people. It is so important to have other people that are part of this storytelling. Because makeup artists, for example, I remember I have so many stories of showing up to set and people not knowing how to do Asian eyes, and it's suddenly you like look at the mirror and you're like, oh my God, who is that? I don't know who that is anymore. And it's an issue continuing with the Black community where, like Black actors, they show up to set and the makeup artist doesn't know how to do their hair, and it's just, heartbreaking. We shouldn't have to be going through that. What was that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it shouldn't have to be that way. We should all feel confident and when we show up to do our work, and not just like pray and hope that people know how to deal with different skin tones and hair.
And know that you're taken care of. Because I think you put your trust in the people behind the
Oh,
camera,
absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So you also want to feel that comfort so that you can do your best work.
I think this is when we talk about representation. Representation isn't just one person who checked the box.
Right.
If you're saying that you want to represent the community, there should be multiples of us, and we should be different within our multiples. And I find that because my partner works in the industry, I'll hear these stories of like, that person just checked the box, that's why they got hired.
Right.
And that's so heartbreaking for that individual to know that I'm here because you needed to fill a quota, not because you wanted me.
Right. That's so demoralizing.
Yeah.
Final question, is there any piece of pop culture that resonated with you as an AANHPI member?
So reach back into your memories.
Like the totality of my life.
We're going on a deep dive here. No,
Okay.
just whoever comes to mind, whoever comes out, sticks out in your mind.
Because three of us have already connected about Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Sailor Moon t-shirt today. I mean, hugely influential to me as a child. Hayao Miyazaki's work as a
Right.
child. I'm still like watching all of his work. And I don't know if anyone's watching Mythic Quest, but Charlotte Dickow as
yeah.
Poppy Lee on Mythic Quest is killing it. Just like such a rich character who I think there's discussion where the character might also be neurodiverse, which is cool, and funny. She gets to play the whole range.
Didn't they have that flashback episode too? With her?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
So
beautiful. Yeah, that show is incredible, and her character is incredible, and she's at the she's a leading character in that show, so that's an exciting character to me.
I remember when we first came to America, we were in a refugee, apartment complex that all had Vietnamese refugee in it, and one time, all the kids had to be babysat by one grandma because all the adults were going to see a movie. The movie was called Table for Five, and it's a dumb movie. I don't think it's that good. But it was all about. It was the only reason they went was because there was one Asian American character, and he was playing a character that was adopted from Vietnam. So they were all very excited to see it. The character, I don't think the actor was even Vietnamese. But that was so important at that time, like the whole, and I don't think they understood the movie. I don't think, we just wanted to support this one sight of us on the big screen, and I remember growing up, I saw Ernie Reyes in this show called Sidekicks.
Yes! Sorry,
right?
I got a little excited there.
And he is, and I was like, that's great, and you supported that. And then when I found out that some of my favorite cartoons was made in Japan, I was all of a sudden like, that's my thing, and then some of the, but as I became an adult and I went into the kind of indie comics genre, and there's Adrian Tomini who did Optic Nerve, who, when you read his stories, they're not specific to Asian Americans or whatnot, but because that was a voice, you wanted to see it, you wanted to read it, and I remember, I'm getting a little bit emotional, but I just think that us as people that some kid might be watching on TV or by reading a comic of is inspired because they see us. Like if I was the little Ernie Reyes, and I got a chance to talk to Ki Kwan because I was in that set, and I told him how important he was.
Yeah.
When I saw Goonies, how important Data was to me, and it got really emotional. Both of us got really emotional, and I was like, that was key to me finding a place in America. Yeah, finding a place in America, and then I always think about that. I always think about maybe some kid or a younger person that wants to be a cartoonist or wants to be a comic book artist or an actor, and they see us in a show or a movie or a comic, be inspired. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Part of what I love.
I know it's of course really important for kids to see themselves and being represented. But when the day after the Oscars, I was walking around like, yeah, I can do anything. I was just flying high.
Asian flag, even though there is no Asia flag.
It affects everybody, no matter how old you are. It's just it's so cool to just see us keep growing in power and in community. And Tuxedo Mask was my first crush. Kick-Ass, like Trina, Power Rangers. It's just all, we are taking over.
Trina.
Yeah, Trina.
Great.
The other, Trini. Shouts to Tweet Trying.
Yeah.
For me, it was like much what Thien said, like Ernie Reyes Jr. And I was a big action guy, like martial arts action dude, like growing up. So Ernie Reyes Jr., Mark Dacascos, Don the Dragon Wilson, all those guys. Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh.
The Brasco brothers.
Yeah. All of that. It was a huge thing for me, and really what the linchpin for me to take kind of think of pursuing a career in the industry was I saw the revival production of Flower Drum Song at the Mark Tabor Forum, and that was like Jose Llano, Lea Salonga, Taima, all those guys, and I was like, people that have a similar phenotype to me can carry an entire Broadway show, and I'm just like, what is stopping me? So, yeah.
Well, I think even we talked on the Disney podcast that for the princesses, it wasn't until even Jasmine that you saw a brown princess.
Right.
And you could say she's South Asian descent, but like that, you remembered wearing her costume. And then we talked about later on, like, when you're talking about appropriate representation, she was the first princess who was sexualized because she had to kiss Jafar.
Oh, yeah.
Like she had to use sultry to do it. And
Right.
also like Steph was saying she remembered wearing the costume when she was a kid, and she was like, my stomach's out. I'm covered by like mesh. Hindsight's 2020. Are you done? She's moved. Step down.
I apologize, my throat is so dry right now. But I'm very emotional.
Audience Q&A. How about we let you all talk?
Yeah, who's got something?
Yes.
There's the mic right there if you would like to step up.
The mic, or you can just. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all good.
We won't look at you.
Yes, from improv, yeah.
Okay, the question is for younger people in the industry finding community that's like-minded.
That's super, super important, and I'm glad you asked that question. I think that the important thing really is to it sucks, but like do the work and try to find, reach out to other people. Like Denise mentioned Twitter like earlier. It's been a huge tool finding a lot of other people, or even just other boards online, Reddit. I know it's not 100% like safe, but trying to find your other people, or community organizations that do kind of foster that. East West Players comes to mind. CAPE, right? But tremendous, yeah, tremendous. They do all the PR for like a lot of the A24 stuff. But Phil M Creative is now doing stuff. Phil M, like us, reach out to us. Filipinx Barkada. There are a lot of organizations now, which are really great organizations that are trying to get the word out and trying to connect people. So I'm sure, like, if you got a hold of like their public relations people or anybody in the leadership, they would point you in the right direction or help you like organize something of your own. That's another thing I say is like, if there is not an organization that kind of caters to your vision and what you want to do, create it.
We have time for just 2 more questions, so go ahead.
Denise
Yes.
alluded to it a little bit with the backlash of Filipinx and using that term, but I think there is also like a contrast between Filipinos and your parent Filipinos who come from the Philippines and our own, like, so they're more conservative, we're more liberal. Like, what has your experience been with that backlash, trying to countenance holding on to your Filipino identity versus the more traditional Filipino values where, like, why don't you be a nurse, you know, that sort of thing, or like, also like, you know, just the general overall view of being like conservative, loving America.
Totally.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you for asking. It's, you know, I was actually born in the Philippines, and my dad was in the Air Force. We were both Filipino. And we moved to the States, moved to Texas, which of course is a very conservative place. Being Catholic and Filipino, and my dad being in the military is like, like, he asked me, he was like, what do you have against Trump? And I was like, what? Let's just say. And so whenever they would be like, you're like, oh, you're so American now. You're so American. I'm like, well, you brought me to America.
What do you want us to
What do you want from me? But it's something that I continue to try and like balance by just doing the things that make me like that bring me joy and help me feel grounded, but also like help to try and honor their journey too. Oh, is this making sense? I'm really good at rambling.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And
We'll fix it in post.
thank you. And yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. It really is a conversation with my parents' generation that I try to actively have. In fact, my mom agreed to go to family therapy.
Wow.
And I doubly cried about it. With me? We're going to you, Ariel. And that was it was a really huge, thing to like happen, and for her to be open to talking about, our differences and reasons why we have conflict in our lives. And I think that just putting ourselves out there and being curious about what other people's experiences are, so what our parents' experiences are, is really important.
I think too that learning to come to terms with the fact that just because you weren't born in the place of our heritage, that you are not second class. You know, that your experience is just as valid and just as real, and is contributing just as much to the story of our people as theirs is. You know,
Yeah.
it's you are not second class. You are not second rate. You know, your experience is real.
Yeah, you're Filipino enough.
Yeah.
Whether you speak the language or you're, whatever percentage, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
You are always Filipino enough. You're always enough of that.
Exactly. I was going to say that also goes for anyone who's mixed heritage.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like you are that, and you are every part of your identity that you are as well. Like you are 100% all of those things, for sure.
Thanks, guys, for being here. This is an awesome conversation. I do agree that Asian Americans, we've made it, right? It's happening. It's a great time to be alive. 100%, it's a great time. I am a bit conflicted, though, with this narrative I feel is happening a lot with the overnight sensation narrative.
Right.
You hear how Simu Liu, yesterday he was in these stock photos and now he's a movie star.
He's been working for a long
So
time.
Exactly, Iman Vellani used to be a superhero fan, now she is a superhero, and they're so lucky, right? As if they didn't work for it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I remember stories of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon winning Oscars, and the stories were they worked so hard, they were in their dingy apartment writing scripts and going on auditions, and their hard work paid off, right? So
Right.
I'm curious about your guys' opinion on this narrative, and because it is a great time for us, but the media seems to be kind of spinning over the story.
I think it's another stereotype that needs to be broken, and I think that getting people writing these stories and telling these stories and being loud about them, taking up space within the industry with these stories is kind of the way to combat that. But what you said is completely on point. Like, these people, there's no such thing as an overnight sensation, not really. And these people have been working for a long time. Simu, I remember 10 years ago him, asking for advice on like auditions and all that stuff. It's a constant grind. So I think to get that story out is probably what we can do to combat.
Yeah, we did get the hard stop, but go ahead and ask your question real quick, and we will answer it as I'm closing the.
You're gonna go outside and ask.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, my name is Kaz. I'm the director for the Asian American Pacific Island Regional Center at UC Santa Cruz. And so I work with
Banana slugs!
Yeah, slugs, good to go. And I always have trouble because I love pop culture. I love like spaces like this, and I always have trouble trying to bridge like your work, your craft to our students a lot of the time, unless they are in like the acting field, unless they're in media and design. And I'm curious if you can like give yourself advice to the college age self of you, also shout out to Odad, what's up to you? Maybe if you could give advice to your college self or a college age self, what would that be? If you don't mind, if I can record it.
To thine own self be true.
Yeah. So close to mine. Yeah, I was gonna say be yourself. Don't feel like you have to fit any other box. Like the more authentic you are to yourself, the happier you will be, and the more you will draw the right people in your life.
My advice is just like my advice to my students is just have no fear. Like, you do it, just do it. You want to do it. And if you fail, then you fail, and then you just get. If you don't, you succeed. It's just have no fear in doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I would say whatever you're doing, like you're saying, do it with no apology and make noise about it. That is how people will find what you're doing, and that's how you will continue to make the stuff you want to make. Make noise, for sure.
Yeah. But do whatever, put it on Instagram.
Tell people about it. Don't
Ask
keep it to
money
yourself.
for your
Tell
art.
people about it.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Ask money for your art. Crowdfund. Be like, we deserve, yeah.
All right, and on that, thank you so much for joining us.